Okay. All right. Ani, bonsoir, good evening, and welcome to our regular council meeting of May 15th. Just want to let, especially the people that are on Zoom, to let people know that we are having a bit of technical difficulties. Seems to be on this side, only my mic is working. So I don't know if it's a hint for the rest of you to be quiet tonight or not, but we will have to share the microphone, and the microphone at the podium is working so far. So we'll see how the night goes. I'd like to begin this meeting by acknowledging that we are in the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe peoples in the Robinson-Huron Treaty area, and wish to recognize the neighboring community of Dokis First Nations. While we meet today, I would like to take a moment to acknowledge the importance of the lands which we call home. We do this to reaffirm our commitment and responsibility in improving relationships between nations and to improving our own understanding of local Indigenous peoples and their culture. From coast to coast, we acknowledge the ancestral and unceded territory of all the Inuit, Métis, and First Nations people that call this land home. And with that, I'd like a mover and a seconder to adopt the agenda. Roger and Willie. All those in favor? So just to let you know, Mel, like the small stuff, I'm not going to make you read it because you don't have a mic. Are you? Okay. All right. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, I see tonight we have 3 delegations. That's great. And we're going to start the first one with a presentation by Neil Fox and Amy Shopman with regards to the IPM 2019 local committee organization. So please take this and welcome. You have to press the button. No, in the front. Is it red? Okay. Okay.
Good, thank you. First and foremost, I'd like to thank Mayor and Council for allowing Amy and I to join you here this evening. As you know, we were members of the Board of Directors for IPM 2019. Amy was representing your community, so I'm happy Amy's here with us this evening, and I'm certainly happy to see her as always. On behalf of the Board of Directors for IPM 2019, it's really a pleasure to be here with all of you. I think we came here before the IPM to make a presentation, so now we're back. Un grand merci. So a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, the municipality of West Nipissing hosted the International Plowing Match and Rural Exposition. We were honored with the participation of the municipality. You were there with us, you were present, the people from your community volunteered, and we are and remain grateful to the contributions your team made to help us host a successful event. We are thankful to the numerous sponsors, of which there were many, and more than 1,300 volunteers from across our region who made it their IPM. We had nearly 81,000 visitors, and they spent an estimated $5 million in our communities. None of this would have been possible without your assistance. And so on behalf of Amy and myself and the Board of Directors of IPM 2019, I am here to present a check in the amount of $20,000, a portion of the profits, as a sign of our gratefulness. It is our hope and the hope of our Board of Directors that you will invest these dollars into tangible assets that reflect the spirit and culture of our wonderful event. Merci beaucoup. Amy. And I would certainly, we would welcome any questions or comments if anybody has any.
Well, first of all, I want to thank the committee, the organizing committee, for putting an event that was outstanding. We participated, as you know, quite fully, and I don't remember the last time I enjoyed myself so much by seeing the people that were there, enjoying people from all over the province, all over Canada, actually. Met quite a few people from out west. And it was such a beautiful, spirited event that West Nipissing and your organization committee put together. And for that, we are very thankful. We are also very thankful for the profits that you made and that you can share with us. It certainly will go to great use, and it'll be put to a good place where people will be able to see it. So thank you again for doing this. And I know Councillor Bob had asked me to say something, so we're going to.
Thank you, Your Mayor.
Permission to leave chair.
Oh, yeah, wait, as long as you're talking in the microphone, okay?
Wow, this is a different view. Yes, I echo your words, your sentiments immensely. The job that the chair, Neil, by the way, he's a Maple Leaf fan, did 2019, and he mentioned an exorbitant amount of volunteers. And we have one with us here from our municipality, and I'm not going to talk too long about Amy because we all know what she does for our municipality. I want to throw my train of thought towards you, Neil. 2019, you were the chair of this amazing event, and you did all this. This was all volunteer work outside your normal day job. We're 5 years after, you're still working at it. The amount of hours this man has put into this event, and this is not the only volunteer work he does. I can't name them all. I'm not even gonna try, but Neil, you are a super community person, and I thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to let everybody know that the monies that you have donated to us will be going to the Joe Chartrand Park for improvements there. Yes. And through Helping Hands that Amy and her group organizes, and it's a huge fundraiser, and these money will go a long way in improving our park for our community, and especially for the children in our area. So again, thank you very much.
Well, thank you for allowing us to be here. Thank you, Mark. Thank you for welcoming us into your wonderful chambers. Thank you.
You're welcome. We'll see you tomorrow. Okay, we'll move on to number 5.2, which is our presentation for our 2023 annual financial report by Roxanne Gervais from Baker Tilly. So welcome back a year later. Seems to be a habit, right? It is. Hey, is your mic? Press the button.
There it is.
There, right.
Perfect. So good evening, everybody. Very happy to be back. I can't believe how fast a year goes. Where it seems like it's unreal for me how fast the time goes. So we're going to go through. I know that council received a full copy of our audited financial statement, the draft, but what we'll present tonight is pretty much just a comparative analysis with some key highlights of the statements. But once the presentation is done, there is some housekeeping stuff that I need to be able to ask council certain questions and just to be able to document our files and comply with standards. So once I'm done, if you can give me about another 5-10 minutes, I'll try to go through it as quick. I see you have a full agenda. So with regards to the analysis, so we'll go to page where it starts with the independent auditor's report. So again, this year we are providing a clean audit opinion with regards to the financial statements of the municipality of French River. We have audited the consolidated statements, which include the consolidated statement of financial position as at December 31st, 23. as well as the consolidated statements of operations and accumulated surplus, cash flows, and change in net financial assets in accordance with our accounting policies. So the second paragraph is the key, is our opinion. So we are indicating that in our opinion, the accompanying consolidated statements present fairly in all material respects the consolidated position of the corporation municipality of French River as at December 31st, 23, and its results of consolidated operation and consolidated cash flows for the year ended in accordance with Canadian public sector accounting standards. I just put the opinion section with regards to this presentation, but the rest of the audit opinion paragraph of the report does also provide information on how we come up with our basis of opinion, as well as the responsibility of management and those charged with governance when it comes to the statements, as well as our responsibility as auditors. The statements, the draft statements are tentatively dated today in anticipation of approval tonight so that we can finalize after that. So if we can go to the next page, which is your statement of financial position. So this represents a snapshot of where the municipality is at December 31st, 2023 with regards to its assets, liabilities, and non-financial assets. Without going through every line, we do have a total of financial assets of 8,321,486. The key components being your cash at 3 million, as well as term deposits as 3.3, and then including other financial assets as you see within the screen. With regards to liabilities, we have a total of 7,308,789. Again, key components being your deferred revenue from obligatory reserve funds of 1.6. as well as your municipal debt of 2,874,000, as well as something that is new this year that wouldn't have been on the statements last year, is what we call here this asset retirement obligation. And that is a new obligation following new reporting standards that are required under PSAB, where we had to actually also do a restatement of your prior year numbers, which is why if you actually saw under the date of 22 that you see restated, this application of this standard does require retroactive adjustment to be able to record. So essentially, this is recording a liability with regards to cost to remediate an asset down the line. So this specifically includes your landfill as well as your well, is the two items that were deemed that would have a cost down the line to be able to have to clean it up or put it back to its original use. So that asset retirement obligation at December 31st, 23 is sitting as 1,439,000. And that amount will steadily go up with the cost of inflation until the year where it actually starts to get paid down, or where you actually incur the cost of closing or doing the work that's needed with regards to the retirement of these assets. Non-financial assets, we have our tangible capital assets of 21,083,000, and as well as some prepaid and inventory for a total non-financial of 21,223,036. Giving us an accumulated surplus at December 31st of 22,235,733. With regards to the next page, which is your consolidated statement of operations and accumulated surplus. So total revenue, so this represents the expenses and revenue of the municipality for the period going from January 1st to December 31st, 23. Revenue is a total of 10,019,053, mostly made up of very similar amounts to last year. Taxation, government transfers, user charges, and other. We have a total expenses of 10,124,924. So that is broken down between the different services that the municipality offers. And again, most of the numbers, even though there's some increases, everything is pretty consistent from year to year. And as we all know, if we even look at our own household budgets, everything's gone up. So it's not surprising that we see some increase this year as well. We finished with an excess of expenses over revenue of 105,871 before other. Other represents any government grants, government transfer that were used for capital purchases of 552,824 is what was received in 23. So the municipality finishes with an excess of revenue over expenses of 446,953, so essentially a surplus. If we go to the next page, essentially this is your statement of net financial assets. So this is tying to your statement of financial position. So this just shows that we started the year with a net financial asset of 1.6 million, finishing with $1,012,000. So essentially we had a decrease in our financial asset this year of $600,000. And that is a function of essentially your non-financial assets where it usually causes the variance from year to year. So if you look at the lines, it starts with your actual surplus that you incurred over for the year, and then takes into account any movement within your tangible capital assets. So you bought a lot of tangible capital assets this year, so it explains some of the reason why the amount actually went down. The next slide that we go through here is with regard to the asset retirement obligation. So I did mention a little bit more about what that represented, but just to show what the cost is within the actual statements of what it represents in 2023. I believe the budget showed your 23 budget would have probably had the landfill post-closure costs for a cost of 40. But because of the retirement obligation that had to be put, there's two components to it. One is the amortization of the asset that was recorded as an asset retirement. And that is for 84,000. But then there's also the accretion expense, again, the increase from year to year because of cost of inflation of 63,000. So it actually ends it up with an extra $107,000 worth of expense within your statements because of this adjustment or this recording this asset retirement obligation.
Roxanne, can I ask you a
Yes,
question?
absolutely.
Okay, because this is new to us.
Yes, it is.
I know that we put $40,000 away every year to close the landfill. So why is it showing just the 40,000 and not the accumulated that what we have already as in our budget, or not budget, but you know what I mean? In our capital budget, is it capital reserves? Thank you. Thank you.
Because this, I guess, represents specifically what would have been recorded as an expense, not necessarily a transfer to any reserves.
Right.
Yeah, this is strictly expense wise. Because any transfers to and from reserves
Right.
doesn't actually hit your statement of operations. It's actually within your accumulated surplus. It won't, you'll never see an expense tied to something going into your reserve.
Right. But we didn't spend that.
It's
amount.
not a cash
Yeah.
item per se.
It's just something floating in the air that you have. to
Yeah,
report.
essentially, right? You had all
So
sorts of
bizarre.
reports that would have provided you with information as to what it would cost to close the wells,
Right,
what it would
yeah.
cost. So based on that, in today's dollar, it was about $1.2 million.
Right.
What it was opening, let's say January 1st, 22. So based on that, the entry is essentially record an asset, create the liability.
Okay.
But as we amortize the asset, that becomes part of your expense. As the liability goes up because of inflation, that hits also your expenses. So I guess it's in a way of trying to build up what it's going to cost you in the end, similar to what you were doing at the landfill.
Yeah. So
'Cause
we're
you'll
already
see-
doing it. Right.
You're already doing it. You'll see that if you look at your statement for last year, you had the landfill liability post-closure costs. You don't have that anymore. It's now called asset retirement.
Okay.
So you were
Okay.
already starting to build up what
Yeah.
you needed to be able to pay for it down the line.
Yeah.
But now this has all just been
Okay.
replaced.
Just looks bizarre.
I agree. And it's a lot of estimates because can anybody really say how much it's gonna cost in 20 years from now? At most is, you know what your asset is, which we added as, and then we'll amortize it to the same useful life of the landfill as it would have been in the past. So just makes it a little bit more complicated, but it's still there, definitely. Before we get into, let's say, the benchmarking, that was very high level overview of the actual statements. Is there any questions, comments?
And concerning that liability that we now have that we didn't recognize in the past, I guess that's what I'm saying here. That with everything from wells to, I don't know what all is covered with that. But if those are addressed in any way in terms of how do we reduce that liability? Without paying some, I don't know, how do you do it?
The only way to reduce that liability is actually incurring the work to close the landfill, fix the well, do whatever why it was set up in the first place is for closure. So the only way that liability will come down is if you're actually doing the work on the landfill
Okay.
That's the only way.
Or
or on the well.
whatever,
Yeah.
whatever objects are
Yeah,
included in
so
that.
that liability will keep climbing and climbing and climbing until the year, I think the landfill is what, 2030 or 15 years. So maybe in 15 years, when you actually incur the cost to close and then the monitoring costs after that will reduce. That's the only way that liability is coming down.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Any other questions at this point? Okay.
Okay, I'll continue if it's. So the rest of the presentation really has to do with the benchmarking. We've been doing this for as long as I can remember now, just giving a little bit of the comparative of what French River's municipality is compared to some of the others with certain ratios. So the first one is our tax arrears ratio. So that is essentially comparing total taxes receivable over taxes levied. So if we look at this year's, and I guess you can see in the green, the light green, that represents the comparative for French River only looking at the last 5 years, including this fiscal year. The tables on the right, where you see some red and some green, that is comparing to French River to other municipalities, but taking the 2022 data, which we do manage to find from the ministry's website when we gather all the information from the financial information returns that all municipalities must file. So ministry for this ratio says as long as we finish either under 10%, it's considered a low risk. If we're anywhere from 10 to 15, we're considered moderate. And then anything higher than 15%, it's a higher risk, right? So if I look at your last 5 years, you've always been anywhere from 9% to 12%. So we've floated between low risk to very low end of the moderate, let's say, so still very close to borderline. So that just shows, I guess, maybe there's different collections. When I looked at your receivables, a lot of them were actually current in the list of receivable for taxes receivable that are outstanding. So I don't think it represents anything within the municipalities not doing the collection effort. I think it's just what the market is right now, as people are maybe not as quick as paying their taxes. And I'm sure Mark can add to that if there's anything further. Yeah, just in case.
So the 11.02 is a little skewed because the ministry was slow in paying us the PIL receivable. So there's 30,000 that we received on January 10th. They forgot to give us the check. So really the real ratio is 10.5. In terms of all the increase is all due to 2023 and 2022 taxes, because all the prior year taxes, actually there's a reduction of 20,000. So all our collection, we're still making the same collection letters and everything. It's just there was an increase. I have the stats here. We went from 351 accounts to 426 accounts, and with the average balance about $1,500 owing. So it's just more people there. It's harder maybe for more inflation, maybe renewing their mortgage at a higher rate. It's just it's slower paying, that's all. But it's all due to current taxes. So basically,
Yeah, it's not.
yeah.
It's not really indicating, in my opinion, a major problem. I think you're still pretty borderline there to just between low and moderate, so I don't see an issue there. With regards to the next ratio we looked at is total reserves ratio. So essentially that is taking your reserves over your operating expenses. So right now, anything above, if you have greater than 20%, it's considered low risk. If you look at the history in the last 5 years, the municipality has always been anywhere from 50%, which is this year's lowest, to anywhere up to 72% of reserves being covered. So there's a very strong indication here that the municipality can self-finance a lot of their significant purchases, tangible capital assets, infrastructure, et cetera, with the reserves that you have. This year, there was a reduction in reserves with regards to some of the uses that were done with regards to roads, vehicles, operating, et cetera, we used the reserve, but that's what they've been set up for, right? Was to use them in this case. So no problems indicated with this. Debt service ratio, we're looking at what our payment debt is compared to our total revenues. So that is just indicating we look again, if you're higher than or less than 5%, you're into a good position, and we've always been at a very low percentage. You don't have, when I look at your balance sheet or your statement of financial position, very little debt with a huge, like a very strong statement of a financial position. And it shows with the volume of debt that you have. You're not incurring any new debt, and it's coming down. So even compared to other municipalities, like we're pretty much in a good position here. And if you look, the percentage is slowly coming down because we keep decreasing our debt. Next one is your asset consumption ratio. So that is essentially trying to see if we take your tangible capital assets and the accumulated, what we've already amortized, how much of that net is left, and that starts indicating if there's something in our asset base that is starting to get older. Are we going to get to a position soon that we're going to have to start replacing these assets? It is just in a global basis and looking at total assets, and we're at about 55% usage of our asset. And that comes into your asset management plan that the municipality is working on, being aware of what has to come through and what has to change. So based on this, because we're slightly over 50%, we're considered moderate, but again, we're really on the low end between borderline, moderate and high and low. The 55%, like I said, is looking at all your different assets. I kind of looked at it within certain categories, let's say of building, roads, bridges, et cetera. Like your building is at 38%. So we know we're okay. Roads is at about 60. Bridges is at 90%. So, but I'm sure I'm not giving you information here that you're not aware of, right? So it's just for information purposes. Vehicle was about 57%, equipment 54%, landfill 25%, because it's we still have several years down the line before we are fully amortized and know that we're at the end of life of the landfill. So just giving you a bit of different ratios here with regards to. I know the municipality's got its plan in place. You're doing your asset management plan, so it is being looked at, and I know it's being considered, the fact that we are sitting in that middle ground at this point. Operating surplus ratio, so that's just looking at our annual surplus over our own sources of revenue. So essentially, can the municipality pay for all its expenses just using its own revenue without using any government funding? And based on this, as long as we're over a -1%, we're low. And if you look, we've always been in a pretty decent shape. Last year, I think, was one of the lowest year at 2.8, but it's come back up at 6%. So the municipality is managing with its own sources of revenue to be able to pay for its operating expenses. So that's pretty much it with regards to my little presentation. Is there any questions before I go into the next part? There is some information that I always have to be able to provide just some standard stuff that's within my standards I need to talk about. So we've always mentioned what our responsibilities are with regards to the audit. So it is to provide an opinion. As council members, you also have some responsibility when it comes to these statements. You have to be, you're essentially sometimes our liaison between us and management. If there's ever any information we need, et cetera, you're there to help us out. It's to be part of the planning process if we need. It is to provide acceptance of the financial statements as we're doing tonight. There is nothing, our audit approach was a combined approach that we did this year between Tessa Controls, where we do a sample to verify that the controls in place that are documented and described are working and that we can rely on those controls, as well as also doing some substantive tests where sample sizes are calculated and traced to supporting documentation. No significant risks were identified where we needed to do some additional procedures to mitigate those risks. As I indicated, we have a clean audit opinion. We did have some changes in standards that we've made. We've provided you that information, the biggest being the asset retirement obligation. Materiality used within the scope of our audit was 301,000, and that was based on 3% of your total expenditures, which is standard for not-for-profit or municipal type organization where the expenses seem to represent better what the true activities of the municipality represents. So that's what we base on. There was no material misstatements no material misstatements were found that were not adjusted. So everything was, we didn't have anything where we didn't adjust. I am confirming from Baker Tilly's perspective for myself and my team that we are independent of the municipality and that all related parties were documented and disclosed within the financial statement. And some of the key related parties are some of the organizations where you're pretty tight, close with, as well as council members. No significant transactions were entered into by the organization that you need to be made aware of, and there's no matters discussed with management and no disagreement. We are asking for management to provide a written representation that we've been provided all the information, and I've already provided your treasurer with a copy of that letter that needs to be returned. No recommendations with regards to your system of internal controls. Your systems are working as you have them set up, they're working properly. And we didn't find any instances of illegal acts, fraud, intentional misstatements or errors, or no instances of non-compliance of laws and regulations were noted during our audit either. Just a few other little, based on the last comment that I did, I always ask the question every year. We have not, and again, an audit is not based and set up to be able to detect fraud. It's not the purpose of it, but I also have to ask the question of council. Are you aware of anything with regards to fraud, intentional errors, et cetera, that we need to be aware of? I'm seeing those. Okay, perfect. And one last question for me, is there any events between December 31st and today that could have an impact on these financial statements that we haven't been made aware of? Nothing? Okay, perfect. So that's pretty much it for me. Is there any questions? I know I went through this pretty quickly, but I believe you also had the draft financial statements, et cetera, ahead of time to be able to go through them and ask if there was any question. Everything was pretty consistent and comparable to prior years, so I don't think there was anything here that required a lot of adjustments, or surprises, I'm sure.
Well, thank you, Roxanne. It's always a pleasure to see you every year and to get this good news audit. So we thank you. Any questions from council? No?
Just one.
Okay. Gonna pass this because
The quick question. We are looking at doing a big project that will affect our assets, I believe. Will that, no, it won't affect our assets?
yet to be determined.
Yet to be, okay. So I was just wondering how that would affect and play in our financials because of of the reports, but if we didn't. No, it wouldn't be for last year's. It would be moving forward, I guess would be my question. So that's, I guess we're gonna wait and see for next year, how that pans out. Yeah.
Any other comments? And the seniors housing is a non-for-profit, so it's not coming out of any of our coffers. So, so there's no questions. So I thank you. And I also want to thank our finance department, they continue to do an amazing job every year. Your team does great, and we, Mark, certainly appreciate all the work that you do and your team. So, and I know the motion, so I need a mover and a seconder to approve the 2023 financial report. Bob and Dave? Thank you. All those in favor? Thank you. Again, thank you, Roxanne. And same time next year?
Same time next year. So thank you very much. And thank you for Mark and Mark for all the assistance. And I wish you all a great night, great summer, and see you next year.
For sure, for sure. Thank you. So next on the agenda is the presentation of the annual operating report for the Noelville wastewater system. And that's going to be presented by Aqua. And I believe Ted and Fred are going to do the presentation. So please come up to the podium.
Good evening. First, I'd like to just thank Mayor and Council for inviting us here. Fortunately, we're not talking about money, which is probably a good thing. What it is it's the lagoon. It's the required regulated lagoon annual operating report by your environmental compliance approval. And Fred is my colleague, will give basically a summary of the report. I'm assuming everyone's read the report. Every word. Good. Okay. Good. And if you have any questions during or after, Fred mostly would be able to answer them.
Okay. Thank you. Like Ted said, my name is Fred. I am an operations manager with Ontario Clean Water Agency. So Aqua acts as the operating authority for the Noelville wastewater treatment plant. The document, which is prepared by Aqua in accordance of the ECA. This report is required and included the following information, summary and interpretation of all the monitoring data, comparison to the effluent limits outlined in condition 6, overview of the success and adequacy of the works, description of any operational problems encountered or any corrective actions taken. The facility is rated for 477 cubic meters per day. Service area, Village of Noelville, 193 connections, 800 population on the system, and the effluent receiver is the Wolf River. Facultative lagoons, 2 cells. It is a class 1 wastewater treatment facility. So the spring seasonal discharge, which is the north cell, that was completed May 8th until May 26th of 2023, consisted of a total volume of 52,000, just shy of 53,000 cubic meters. The sampling parameters were not exceeded during the spring discharge. The autumn seasonal discharge, which was of the south cell, was completed between October 23rd and November 8th and consisted of a total volume of 78,370 cubic meters. The sampling parameters for that release as well were not exceeded. The total effluent discharge from the lagoons for the year was 131,294.94 cubic meters. The total raw sewage flow into the lagoons for the year was calculated to be 72,474. The facility operators, they collect grab samples of raw sewage and send them to an accredited lab for analysis. Raw flows are calculated using a flow meter. They test BOD 5, total suspended solids, total nitrogen, and flow. So your monthly average on the raw for BOD was 118.1. Your monthly suspended solids was 96.5. And your monthly phosphorus average was 2.26. Nitrogen was 20.8. Your average flow daily was 198.56 cubic meters. The operator collects effluent samples and sends them to an accredited lab for analysis. Twice a week during the drawdown, effluent volumes are estimated by measuring drawdown levels and the total volume of the cell. So they do those samples at the start of the release, at the 25% mark, at the 50%, 75%, and the final. The parameters are the oxygen on demand, which is all of these samples are grabs, suspended solids, total phosphorus, TAN, pH, temp, and ammonia. And flow, it's estimated based on the operator's daily measurements during the release. Compliance limits are based on seasonal discharge for effluent concentrations and effluent loadings. So for the spring discharge, compliance concentration or the compliance requirements for the CBOD is 25 milligrams. Aqua sets an objective of 15. The limits are what we have to meet. The objectives are which Aqua would like to a little bit under the limits. So for this CBOD, the objective is 15 milligrams and the compliance is 25, or the limit is 25. Suspended solids, the limit is 25, the objective is 20. Total phosphorus is 1, our objective is 0.8. Ammonia, nitrogen, that's not required. pH 6 to 9.5 at all times. So for this spring release, your average oxygen on demand was 7.4, 11.8 for the suspended solids. So we're well under our limits for both of those. Total phosphorus was 0.3. TAN was 4 and pH was 7.48. Our max, because these are averages throughout our 5 samples, our max on CBOD was 12. Our max was 20 for suspended solids, and our max was 0.55 for phosphorus. TAN max was 7.4 and pH max was 8.14. So all of these are within the objectives and still below our limits. So for the discharge, like I said, it was the total between both lagoons, the spring and the fall release was 131,294 cubic meters. Daily flows, again, they're monitored. The average raw daily sewage flow was 198.56. We're approximately 42% of the rated capacity. The highest recorded peak flow occurred in May at a rate of 804.5 cubic meters, which rain, infiltration, runoff from snow usually contribute to those and was approximately 147% of the rated capacity, but those, like I said, are few and far between. It's usually due to heavy rains and a lot of runoff and infiltration. The total raw sewage flow to the lagoons for the year was calculated to be 72,474 cubic meters. The municipality has an objective of 350 cubic meters per day. Your rated capacity is obviously a little bit higher than that, 477. The average annual raw flow did not exceed the municipality's objective in 2023. They're all pretty consistent since 2021. You're 58% in 2021 of your objective of 350 cubes. 2022 was 59%. And 2020, sorry, was 53%. So it's fairly consistent throughout the years. The autumn seasonal discharge was of the south cell. This was completed in October 23rd and went until November 8th for a period of 17 days. Like I said, it consisted of a volume of 78,000 cubic meters. All compliance and objective limits were met during the spring discharge. All compliance limits, during the autumn discharge. The only thing we had it wasn't an issue, but we had the autumn discharge, the suspended solids were higher than our objective. So, when we talked with the inspector during that, if we're seeing those suspended solids starting to creep up and we're above our objective and below our limits, we'll usually stop the release. And if we have to treat with ferric sulfate, then we'll treat again to get those suspended solids below. But in my time here, we haven't had to stop. This was the first year that we were 22.4 suspended solids, and our objective is 20.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
In where you're talking about the flow volumes, there was a discharge in May, but then there was a discharge again, both in October and November.
Yes. So May is the spring discharge of the north cell.
Okay. Oh,
And then we started in October of the south cell.
south
And
cell.
it went through, I think it was the end of October, the 23rd, I think it was, and it went carried over into
Okay, got it. Got
into
it.
November. Yeah. So those cells,
Yeah.
they get filled and then they typically sit for a season, and then we collect content samples and then treat
Right.
and release. It's consistent. It's always the north cell in the spring and the south cell in the fall.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. The autumn discharge, I went through, we didn't have any community complaints. There was no sludge removed from the lagoons in 2023. What was my next one? Maintenance. So we did do sonar study of the cells last year, I believe it was. Yes, in 2023. So the sonar survey of the lagoons was completed to determine the current sludge levels. It was determined that 14% of the total volume of the north cell is occupied by sludge and 11% of the south cell. Like I said, no sludge was removed from the lagoon.
That's concentrated. It
Yes.
seems to be concentrated in a specific area.
Yeah, mostly at the ramp and close to the inlet pipe, obviously. But a lot of it was at the ramps where receiving is. The percentages I didn't think were terrible. I expected them to be higher than that. Yep, I did. So that's a good sign. Throughout the year, the septage was hauled to the lagoon. Total amounts were provided by the municipality. There's a copy of everything that was hauled. And then again, it's reiterating our spring and fall release, and your numbers, your parameters that we were testing for. Everything worked out well, and we didn't have any issues other than the south cell with the TSS. But again, I think we've corrected that issue. Planned maintenance, again, in this annual report is, oh, sorry, I will go through. So we treated, sorry, just bear with me for 1 minute here. So we treated the north cell with 2,000 imperial gallons of ferric sulfate. We discharged for 9 days, and we discharged just shy of 53,000 cubic meters. All the parameters were met. There was no compliance issues. For the south cell released in the fall, we treated with 2,900 imperial gallons, and we released 78,370 cubic meters. All parameters were met, no compliance issues. And planned maintenance, it just goes through our work orders. I know there was a question I got from Michelle in regards to the generator. The operator had stated for a work title was replace, refurbish. That's just our preventative maintenance program. It asks you to pick something. So when they do their monthly testing, they'll usually pick replace, refurbish as their category. They put, this is too small for me to read on here. They put details in there, tested, generator ran for an hour under a load, alarm dialing, testing, all these parameters are completed monthly.
Just a reminder to council that just a few meetings ago, council did endorse an application to the province for funding. Part of that ask was $1.5 million, which included the generator as a project. And we're hoping to know good news this summer.
Yeah, I believe that generator's original. It's not used a lot, but they have a life expectancy. So it's I don't know if anybody else has any questions in regards to it, whether you have it on our maintenance schedule, anything on the release. If I miss something, just let
Well,
me
I
know.
think Bob has one. I'll just pass the mic to him.
Sure.
Yes, thank you for your presentation. My question, maybe it's not a fair question. And if we keep doing our maintenance, our yearly maintenance, and things stay at this level, can you give us a life expectancy of our system, of our lagoons, before we have to spend major dollars? Or would there be major dollars to spend? And if, like I say, maybe it's not a fair question.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with doing your regular maintenance. It's only going to extend the life.
No, I understand that, but if down the line,
I've never heard of a lagoon having to be replaced if you're thinking of that idea. You basically with a lagoon, it's sludge buildup over time. And what may be required is a full clean out of the lagoon, which can be a little costly. Probably in the neighborhood of about $500,000, but you're in good shape for that. If this funding comes through, there will be provisions for some of that will then put the lagoons in good shape for many years to come down the road.
And we have also looked at options in regards to not a full clean out where they can come in and target those high concentration areas. Yeah, which will, I mean, like Ted said, I think that the lagoons are in good shape. They're clay bottoms as well. So other than a clean out.
And maintenance around the edge.
Berms, yep.
Berms
Yep.
and the cattails
Yep.
and all that sort of thing.
okay, thank you. That it's reassuring. Thank
Yep.
you.
Where it says service population, there's 193 connections and 800 population on this system. Should we not consider the whole municipality on this, on the lagoon, because everybody that gets pumped gets dumped in there?
I mean, you can.
I'm not sure.
We're accounting for what's being pumped in there as well.
I think
Right.
Is that not, that's probably based on just town
Connections.
site and connections.
Connections, yeah.
Not necessarily, because.
Because I know originally that's what it was designed for, but
Yes.
now everything is
And you were
going in.
accepting sewage outside. as
We
well,
were.
too,
Yeah,
so
we were.
Now you're not, it's strictly,
Right.
I mean. You could, we could have that, obviously it is inclusive of that.
Yeah,
And I think if septic receiver was in place, then that would account for everything going into lagoon. I mean, yeah. I don't know if it really makes a difference if they're added. Those connections, because we have the amounts that's going into the lagoons as well, right?
right.
From within the municipality.
It doesn't change, it's not gonna change
No,
the operation. of it or anything like that.
Right.
It's just a number for your records, for your information.
Right, the only thing that would, well, I don't even know, I don't think it would change it, right, because we're only monitoring. What's on our connections, right, what's going through that wet well, what's going through the flow meter on our way up to the lagoon.
right. That's part of my next question. So everything that is dumped from the truck, that's not calculated in what's put into it, because it doesn't go through the pump and it's not recorded, well, or it's recorded through when he
Yep.
dumps.
Yep. There was
Okay,
a septic receiver at I mean, I know there's no power there, but a septic receiver at the lagoons so that we can account for all of that would make a huge difference. It would be
okay,
curious to see how the numbers change or if they change. I don't know.
And if that. Yeah, if that
Yeah,
funding comes through, that
Okay.
will change and.
because I'm looking at the numbers of what's going in and what's going out, and there's like a huge difference. There's a lot more going out. So I know there's rainfall and infiltration, but is a lot of that like part of infiltration? Because I know we have
Yeah.
problems with so is that something we should be concerned about? Because we have 58, almost 59,000 cubic meters more going out than going in.
Right, so what was hauled? Right, so we're accounting for what's coming in, that's a 60,000 cube difference.
Yeah,
So what was the total hauled?
131 that came out.
1,187. Sum of gallons, those are in gallons, so.
Oh, I'm looking at the
by 4.
cubic meters here.
Yes, so I'm saying, you're saying that we're releasing a lot more, correct?
Yeah, there's,
Than
yeah,
we're taking in.
right.
But we have to account for what's being dumped in there that we're not tracking.
Like rain and infiltration, you mean?
Infiltration, rain, what about
And-
from the septic hauling, right?
Right, yeah,
Because
so
we're
that's
not
not,
tracking that.
okay,
So I think if we're
Okay.
tracking that, the septic hauling, then I think
Yes.
those numbers are usually gonna be
okay,
fairly close
There's a flow meter as it at the
at the big lift station. at
big
Leclerc.
lift station that.
Mhm.
Where we get the numbers from the town site and the flow going in.
yes,
What is not tracked is, of course, rain but also the septic haulage, we have to rely on.
on what they say is put in, yeah.
But if, as I say, if the funding comes through, then that will change that. The intent is to record everything,
Hmm.
so we'll have.
That would be nice to have
Those
more
numbers.
accurate
Yeah.
numbers.
Yeah,
That
and I
would-
mean, infiltration, it happens. we see it everywhere.
But are we like worse than average or?
No, I don't
No?
think you're worse. I know they're doing flushing this year and we're doing, potentially camera work to determine, how much infiltration there is, but, you're not the only municipality that's got infiltration. It's,
Oh, sure.
it's
Everybody's,
common.
Okay.
Just some years are worse than other depending on, how much rain we get. And how wet our spring is.
yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, so next year we'll see what we were like in May, or I can.
Well, I just noticed as I'm reading through the hauled sewage quantities there, that a lot of it is not from our municipality. And I thought we had made a decision that they had to.
Through you, Madam Mayor, yes, agreed, Councillor Dean, we did make that decision, but that decision didn't come into fruition until halfway through the year last year. So those numbers did come down from previous years, but will be coming down again because we're only accepted the septic from the municipality of French River area only.
And I think that they stopped the hauling in July, or was it, did we not give them till October after the long weekend? July? Okay. All
Yeah,
right.
so yeah, from just Noelville alone, it's stated that there's 472,000. I think that's in gallons. 470,000, and then you have another a couple 100,000 from the outskirts. So that'll be I think that'll be significant, as well as where they're dumping every year when we have to treat those ramps have to be repaired. And I know it's Public Works that comes over and does it, but I mean, it's just causes more problems for the municipality, Public Works, to have those ramps repaired so that, the boat can go in, we can treat the lagoons. I think the one has got the concrete, but that's a route we go and concrete the other side, but it's just years and years of deterioration on those pads.
Thank you. Did you have, anybody else have any questions? Nope. All right. Thank you very
you.
much
Thank you for having us. Yep.
to both of you. You're more than welcome to stay, but I know you, as you can see, the audience has left. Okay. All right. Oh, yeah. No. Okay, so we don't have a resolution for the report, right? It's for information now. Thank you very much. All right, under 6.1. So report on flood warnings, and we do have on the table a donation to the reserve fund to give to Team Rubicon Canada. And just want to say a few words about the team. I think the having the team of 12 here during the time that we needed them was exceptional. They worked hard. They were, oh my goodness, so well organized. I've never seen anything like it. Our residents had nothing but great things to say about them. And it also, having them here gave our firefighters a much needed break, and our public works worker a much needed break. I know that the waters now are starting to recede, right, Mr. Mark? Slowly, very slowly, and hopefully there won't be that much rain. But they do this for free. And they're a group of people, 60% of the group is made up of retired veterans or civilians, and just ordinary people that want to give up their vacation to come and spend in areas where they need help. And being a small community like ours, I thought it was fantastic that they agreed to come. They don't charge any money. They're solely funded by donations. And the amount of work that they did over the 1 week period was outstanding. And tonight I'd like the municipality to make a donation of $5,000 to Team Rubicon Canada so that they can keep going. They rely heavily on donations, and hopefully we won't need them again in the next short while, but if we do, we know we can count on them, and I think we owe them at the very least that amount of money. So and with a heartfelt thank you, Rock, for organizing it. I had never heard of them before, so you too, eh? I know. It was a blessing. It was a real blessing to. No, Rock worked it out. Yeah, it was just amazing. I saw they were in at the arena upstairs. I don't know how they could sleep on those little teeny weeny cots, but anyway, they didn't seem to mind, and there were some young workers there too. One guy took two weeks off to come up here out of his job, and I thought, oh my God, what a way to spend your vacation. But they seem quite happy, very appreciative of it. And certainly we appreciated what they did for us. So I would like to move that the municipality donates $5,000 to Team Rubicon Canada with a letter to go with our deepest thank you for assisting the members of our municipality. Seconded by Dave. Any comments? Sure. No? Oh. Oh, I can't move because I'm a nobody? Oh, I'm the chair. Okay, so I need a. Okay, well, okay, so who do I have as a seconder right now? You don't know, okay, okay, so Willie and Bob, okay. Oh, I think it was Dave, yeah, okay, so I know this is really complicated, right? So how about Dave and Willie? Okay. Yeah. We can go through audits, but a mover and a seconder takes a team effort. Okay. All those in favor? Thank you very much. And Doc, again, thank you for organizing it. And also a huge thank you to both Public Works, which I see Martin's there, and to our volunteer firefighters for assisting us during this period of time. Okay, so there's no report for finance. We just got the audit. So Public Works and Environmental Services. So there's a resolution to discontinue the special garbage pickup service, which was left over from our May 1st meeting. And there were discussion that we would discontinue this service for a number of reasons, but that the cost to service 6 people was extreme. However, that those affected will be given the names or options of private contractors that if they need that service, that they can contract that out. And therefore, though the municipality is not providing the service, they can still have access to service to meet their needs. So they're not left out in the cold. And that we are definitely not taking in new requests for this type of service. And so it'll be phased out. So I need a mover and a seconder, Bob and Roger. Thank you. All those in favor? Thank you. And we have the quarterly report from Public Works, and I see Martin is there. Over to you, Martin. Marte, I think is.
Hello,
Okay,
anybody hear me?
yep, we can hear you.
Oh, beautiful. Okay, give me 1 second here. I'm just pulling up my report. All right, good evening, everyone. Tonight I'm going to share with you our first quarter report for Public Works. Nothing too special happened in the first quarter. I'm just going to go over the highlights, and if anybody has any questions, please let me know. So first thing I want to point out is you may have noticed the report is a little different from last year's. I moved some things around and I highlighted some new features and removed some things that were not as prevalent. So let's go through this. First quarter, we had 22 requests for service. Permits. So the Public Works Department takes care of entrance permits and 911 permits. We've had 5 requests for 911 permits. I added this new asset section here, which highlights all of the assets that the Public Works Department takes care of. So primarily we take care of the culverts, signage, streetlights, and guardrails. Here, I'll just point out the difference between each one of these categories. So the first one says new culvert installation. Anything that has new would be a new sign or culvert that we're putting in that we did not have before. So an example of that would be if we installed a new parking sign, a new no parking sign somewhere, that's where this new signage installation would be. Whereas the signage replacement would be if that new parking sign were to be damaged, we would replace it. So just to highlight the differences between adding new signs to the system and replacing signs that are already in the system. So that would be the same thing with the culverts. If we installed a new culvert at a new location, that would be the first line. And your second line would be culvert replacements if the Public Works Department were to change any. We also have our steamed culverts as well. So in case anything were to freeze up during the spring or winter. So we did do 2 culverts this spring, which is a great improvement from 7 last year, and the year before, I think we had like 29. So it's getting better. No new signs in the winter. No new streetlights. 3 reported streetlights outage, and nothing to do with guardrails during the spring. The next section is the winter operations. So before we were tracking sanding events and plowing events and a mix of both environmental events. So I ended up combining it and just putting it into a full deployment. So if ever we need to do a full deployment for winter operations, where we have enough snow, roughly about 8 to 10 inches of snow, 8 to 10 centimeters of snow, my apologies. That's where this line would be filled in. So if we're calling in our contractors, if we're going out to plow the private roads and to plow our own roads, that's where this line is. As you know, the winter this year was a little lackluster, so we only went out for three full deployments. Temporary measures, we installed 95 temporary bump signs, no water over road signs this year, and no temporary road closures during the spring. Contracted services. So anything that has to do with contractors will be in this area here. So we have culvert replacements, installations. So that would be if we needed to put a new culvert in. So these two, I just want to point out that the contracted services and the assets may overlap in this section here. So if we were to have a culvert replacement done by a contractor, that would also count as a new culvert or a culvert replacement. Just so we know how many assets were changed and if it was contracted out. That's what that difference is. We also have the beaver dam removals, only 1 this spring. Debris removal from culverts. So in case anybody's wondering what that is, sometimes beavers like to plug up our culverts and we don't have the machinery to empty them or clear them. So we'll have to call in a contractor with an excavator typically to remove that stuff. Streetlight repaired. So 1 of the 3 streetlights were brought back on during the spring. I believe we were waiting on different drivers, different lights that's why not all the lights were done at the same time. Beaver control is, and that is the best way to describe the stoppage of beaver activity would be, I believe, the best politically correct way of saying that. And sidewalk snow removal is when we remove all the snow from in town, when we typically will have a contractor help Public Works out, but that's what that is. And hazardous trees is a new one that we've added this year, where every time we call an arborist to cut down a tree, that's what that is for. And that is basically the highlights of the first quarter, if anybody has any questions.
Any questions? Seeing none, thank you, Martin.
You're welcome.
All
Enjoy your
right.
evening.
We will. All right, let's move on then to the next one, which is the Emergency Protection Services. So, Rock, over to you. Oh, sorry. Yeah, we need a microphone. Yeah.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is the first quarter report for the fire department. Emergency types, we responded to 20 emergencies. The most was motor vehicle accident. This is mostly due to bad weather, mostly in February and January. Inspection, I completed 2 inspections, follow-up and a request. Training, we mostly did our recertification for first aid and our ice water rescue. So a total of 14. Equipment check is 5. No burning permit was issued or sold. Agreements, mutual aid activation with our neighboring department, St. Charles. So we responded to their municipality for a structural fire, ice water rescue, and a hazmat. Recruitment, we have 1 new recruit at Station 1 in Nuevo. And fire department update, we had some firefighters attend the chief conference and training in Huntsville. We went and did some training on effective command. Any questions?
Any questions? Seeing none, thank you very much. Oh, sorry. Okay.
Thank you, through you, Madam Mayor. And just a general question for my information, because I forget. How many volunteers do you have now in Station 1 and in Station 2?
Off my head, we're a total of 30. I
30.
believe we're about 12 in Wellville and the rest of complements Alvin. That's
Okay.
without counting me.
Okay, so we have 30 volunteer firemen,
Yes.
which is great. And that was it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Doc. Any other questions? Nope. All right, then we'll move on to correspondence 7.1. We have Seniors Month proclamation. As you know, the month of June is dedicated to honor the citizens of Ontario. And on June 7th, there will be the luncheon at the ACC. And hoping to see all of you there because you're on serving duties, and the volunteer firefighters have been invited. And I have confirmation from the paramedics are coming, as well as the OPP who will be serving, and as well as council. So hopefully there won't be an emergency, so everybody doesn't disappear. We do have the politicians coming as well. John Van Doff and Frangilino will be attending. Unfortunately, Max Sedes in a meeting with the minister on that date. So we have, okay. So I need a mover and a seconder to proclaim. Willie and Dean.
It is moved and seconded It is moved and seconded, whereas Seniors Month is an annual province-wide celebration, and whereas seniors have contributed and continue to contribute immensely to the life and vibrancy of the municipality of French River. And whereas seniors continue to serve as leaders, mentors, volunteers, and an important and an active member of our community. And whereas their contributions, past and present, warrant appreciation and recognition, and their stories deserve to be told. And whereas the health and well-being of seniors is in the interest of all and further adds to the health and well-being of the municipality. And whereas the knowledge and experience seniors pass on to us continues to benefit all. Be it resolved that council hereby proclaims June 2024 as Seniors Month in the municipality of French River and encourages all citizens of our community to recognize and celebrate the accomplishments of our seniors.
Thank you. All those in favor? Thank you. All right, let's move on to the consent agenda. So I need a resolution to adopt the items contained under the consent agenda. Renee and Willie.
So moved and seconded that council approves the items of the consent agenda under section 8.1 and receives the items under section 8.2.
Thank you. We have no notice of motion and announcement and inquiries. So I'll start with Renee tonight. Oh, sorry. Yeah, okay. I'll send this one on this side.
Not too much. We did attend the Phenom conference, which was very well attended. There were a lot of great presentations made. I think it was well organized. Got a lot of info on different things going on. So that was interesting. Besides that, I don't have too much to say. The work at Joe Chartrand Park is coming along good. I believe they're done putting in the septic now. And I think Jason said they were going to start on the bathroom walls sometime this week. So it's really nice to see. So thank you to all of them for making this happen. That's it.
I don't have too much to say either. I was also at Phenom, as Renee mentioned. We did have a delegation with the MNRF about the wood chips that Espanola used to take and are not taking anymore. And I see there's work started on the arena, which is nice to see. I saw that on my way in. That's about it. Yeah.
Presume you're finished. I don't have much to say. I gotta tell you that at home, the water is down about 8, maybe almost 9 inches now. And it's looking much better. Everybody's a little happier to see docks starting to come out of the water and fixed structure and so forth. And it looks like it will continue. We're not getting much rain, and I don't think they're calling for much rain now. So maybe we're over the worst of it for this spring. Let's hope anyway. I had a call from a fella in Baker's Bay that wants to talk to me. He wanted to talk to me just before I was going to leave for this meeting. So he's going to call me in the morning. A fellow named Campbell. Maybe you're familiar with him over there. I think he's one of the people that I don't know how they were getting in on that Bayside Road during the time the water was all over it there. But anyway, quite a few of them were affected by that. But it's over, so I don't have anything really else to add. I think we're still going to probably have another meeting yet, but I haven't seen a no order for it yet. So, but just a wind up. Anyway, I think we're finished. Thank you. Me too.
Okay, I'll go at the other end with Roger.
Oh.
Yeah, I'll do that and then.
Do Roger.
Yeah. Just want to see if you're paying attention.
Through you, Madam Mayor. I received 2 emails tonight. Am I allowed to read them tonight, or should I just leave them for later? Okay, that's all I have.
Food bank's open tomorrow.
I got it down. To you, Madam Mayor.
last Saturday, the Rod and Gun had their fish fry. It was wonderful. They did a great job. They were very well supported and they did a great job. Yes, work being done at Joe Chartrand. It's moving along. Really nice to see. The arena also. I was able to attend Phenom that one day. My experience there compared to another conference we attended down south, my one day was more profitable than down south. So I just want to throw that in there. Although I did miss the reception on the Monday night and the banquet, which I won't next year. There was one more thing. I'll just end it with this. Thank you to all of you on council to being so devoted to our municipality.
Just a few words. I too attended the conference. I found it very well put together and I found it very, very informative. I learned quite a bit there. There was a lot I didn't know. And I was very thankful in the way things were delivered in a matter of fact and very common sense fashion. I look forward to having the opportunity to do that again next year. And just want to speak to the water levels. I'm very grateful that the water levels are coming down the way they are. I'm hoping to be able to use my waterfront maybe within a week or two. That's it for me.
Thank you. I just have a few things. So I just passed to you the Moose Hut, remember last weekend, last weekend, last meeting, we approved a resolution to support the Moose Hide campaign. And so that is the information that goes with it, as well as with a pin and a piece of moose hide. And so I encourage you to wear it. I have lots over here, which we'll give some at the desk, and I have some. I want to put them as well with the for the seniors luncheon, so that it's a reminder that we should always be a bit sensitive about violence against women and girls. We did meet, Mark and I, with Dennis from the Snowmobile Association and prepared some letters to go to some landowners to encourage them to allow the Snowmobile Association for the trails to go through their lands and see if we can assist them into having perhaps a better year next year with snowmobile. And Mel, it's way too early for snowmobiling. So. And then also, yes, the Rod and Gun fish fry was excellent. And just in case you want to know who won the fire pit, moi. So thank you, Jason and Mark, for moving it from one car into my van. It's still there. So if you want to have a look at it, it's beautiful. It's commemorative to our veterans. So it has the Legion, the poppies, and it's just absolutely beautiful. So my oldest son will be getting it. So anyway, and that's all I have. Oh, you forgot something? You all forgot something.
We all forgot something. Happy birthday, Madam Mayor.
1 year younger. All right, with any comments from staff? No. So I need a resolution to adopt the confirmation bylaws, moved by Renee and seconded by Dave. All those in favor? Thank you. And I need a resolution to adjourn, moved by Dean and moved by Bob. All those in favor? Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Miigwech.